All right, last thing I want to talk about, Steelers got some rookies. They got a lot of rookies, and the rookies are playing well in the last couple of weeks. I think that it somewhat clears up a situation heading into the offseason where the Steelers have to worry about whether or not they're going to replace half of their team or whether or not they're just going to fill in rookies heading into year two. I think the big ones are Mark Robinson, DeMarvin Leal, Jalen Warren, and then, the new guys on the offensive line, I think, have all solidified themselves, even though none of them are rookies. Let's start with inside linebacker. We watched Mark Robinson get his first start last week, out-snapped Devin Bush significantly, finished the game, him and Robert Spillane. What'd you think?
I liked it. I thought they were pretty good.
Yeah.
I thought they really stepped up to the challenge of stopping Baltimore's run. When this team, I guess, got kind of ran over in that first matchup, I thought they were absolutely game. Thought they played really well. Mike Tomlin said that Mark Robinson was one of those guys who just lended himself to that football. Just he's aggressive, plays downhill, loves to hit people. Yeah, you got to love that. I feel like the Steelers will be able to coach him up, kind of coach up the other, maybe more raw parts of his game. But the aggression is how aggressive he is a great place to start. And then Robert Spillane is he's a little inconsistent, but I don't know. He was I feel like against the Ravens, he found himself on the end of just every big play. I felt like he did a lot of stuff really, really well. And he stepped up into a much bigger role really, really well.
So the craziest part about Robert Spillane is I agree with you. He is a little bit inconsistent. But in the last 3 games, he's played 100% of the snaps. And, you're asking a guy to do a lot. So maybe he should be doing a lot, but he is doing a lot. And that somewhat surprises me. Like, he has led the team in tackles the last 3 weeks in a row.
Right.
That's exactly what you're looking for a dude who's playing 100% of the snaps, is to lead the team in tackles. And then Mark Robinson, I think it was Spillane, Minka, Mark Robinson. I think that's what it was in Baltimore. I thought Robinson, for a 7th round pick, to go in there into Baltimore, the toughest running team in the NFL, and I don't want to say stop them, but slow them enough to win. That's a win. That's a win. That's how you win in Baltimore. You give your team you give your offense an opportunity to go win the game at the end. You keep the game in check. Mark Robinson and Robert Spillane did that. 2 people that nobody saw coming this season. Nobody. I watched both of them in training camp. I was a little optimistic about Mark Robinson, but at the same time, I was like, dude, this guy's a 7th round rookie. He's never going to play. Both of them looked pretty good.
Yeah, and I think the thing that should get you really excited if you're a Steelers fan is that Mark Robinson has so much room to grow.
Yes.
He was such a raw product coming out of college. Part of why he was a 7th round pick. I feel like the physical tools were there, but he that processing part really learned how to play linebacker, and I feel like he's come along really nicely since he first arrived in Pittsburgh and first arrived in the NFL.
Do you feel confident enough right now, if the season ended today, which it might end in 5 days, that you're going to head into the offseason and the Steelers could go out? They're definitely going to go out and get another linebacker. But do you feel confident that, like, okay, well, Spillane will be your number 1. You need maybe a number 2 or like a 2B, and then it'll be Mark Robinson next season?
Yeah. I think whatever pieces they add, I wouldn't be comfortable walking into a season with Mark Robinson as my 2nd best linebacker. But he is a more than serviceable depth piece, I think, especially for next year after you can kind of give him a full off season of not being a rookie, but being, a real part of your team and an important part of the defense. I feel like that'll be huge for him. And I don't know. I got to say Robert Spillane, number 1, being your number 1 linebacker for an entire season does.
It's scary, but that's what's going to happen. There's no way they're this in love with this guy just because their other options aren't that bad. Like, Devin Bush isn't great, but he's a starting linebacker on most teams. Mm-hmm. Miles Jack is a starting linebacker on almost every team. Mm-hmm. But Robert Spillane is the guy. He's the guy taking 100% of the snaps. He's the guy covering. He's the guy playing dime linebacker. The Steelers, whether they should or not, they do very much like this guy.
Mhm.
But if they get a number 2 that's worthy of a number 1, I feel like that evens out. At that point, you're just like,
You're just
yeah,
rotating guys.
yeah. Like you just have 3 guys that you feel comfortable with. And it's crazy to think that 2 of them will be Robert Spillane and Mark Robinson. The other name on the defense is DeMarvin Leal, who I think stepped up for really the first time last week and kind of said like, okay, I'm a defensive end. Please keep me at defensive end. Stop putting me on the outside. I'm a big man. Let me play big man football. Mike Tomlin said something about along those lines, saying like DeMarvin Leal doesn't realize he's a lineman, but he's a lineman. I think that's good. I think for the first time we saw where he belongs, where he should belong. And I think that it proved nicely that he could make himself a piece to this defensive line.
Yeah, it's great, and I think that that's a position that needed some youth so badly. And between the emergence of Alex Highsmith, I mean, Alex, you're getting him at kind of the wrong time. You're getting this kind of explosion of production, not at the wrong time, but just you got to pay him. So like, that's not going to be an easy piece of young talent to hang on to. But yeah, the defensive line needed some youth. And DeMarvin Leal is definitely a welcome sign there. Just another like, I'm just so excited to see what they do next year. Just another one of those guys that, their play against Baltimore was really exciting and all that, but can't wait. I'm just much more excited to see what they do with like after a full off season of work.
Yeah, agreed. I think that you could look at that situation and say those are 2 guys that could be very quality role players and compete for starting jobs. I think both of them will compete for starting jobs. I don't think that, yeah, and you said this last week, I don't think you could walk into the offseason being like DeMarvin Leal is your starting defensive end and Mark Robinson is your starting inside linebacker and feel better about your situation because you cannot. But those are building blocks, and you need building blocks, and the Steelers seem to have found 2 of them. The other one's Jaylen Warren. Everybody knows what Jaylen Warren has done this season. I think the big question is he plays running back. Running back, the roller coaster ride that could be a running back's career is very much so real. Like you could go from superstar to nothing within one off season. But do you get that sense about Jaylen Warren, or do you think that he's got the talent to kind of be, here for a little while?
Yeah, I do, because I think he is not only I don't think it's just his physical traits that are really impressive.
Yeah.
I think he's a really smart player too. I think that's like, you don't just trust a rookie running back right out of the jump, but he's been a part of this team for, I don't know, I can't remember how long he's, really started to get snaps, but I don't know. He does well in pass protection too. He knows his routes. He knows which holes to hit. He doesn't, try to do too much. He's just a very like fundamentally sound football player. And I think that's going to carry him for a long time, even when maybe his speed or his athleticism kind of takes a step back eventually. I think those things are really going to carry him for a while.
Yeah, I kind of get the same sense. I go back to the first time I ever talked to Jaylen Warren, and he told me, dude, I've been an underdog my whole life. Nobody wanted to give me offers. Then the offers I got stunk. I had to work my way onto the field in college. Then I knew I wasn't going to get drafted into the NFL. So I kept that mindset the whole time. He's like, I'm just going to be Jaylen Warren, and Jaylen Warren's an underdog that wins. I was like, okay, sounds like every other undrafted rookie ever. The difference is this guy has proven it, so I have to believe what he says. But I agree. I think he's a very smart football player. His ability to pass block is huge, and that will keep him in Pittsburgh for as long as he wants to stay here, because it kept Benny Snell around for as long as he wanted to stay here. The fact that he could pass block very well and he could play special teams, Jaylen Warren could do both of those things as well. He's a quality pass catcher. I think him and Najee play similar football, which is huge for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's got a connection with Kenny. He's got a connection with Najee. I don't know. I think he's just the perfect 1-2 punch. And then I think the best case scenario for the Steelers is to draft somebody late in the draft, or even go sign like maybe another offseason free agent, undrafted or in the pool, the free agency pool, and let Anthony McFarland compete for his final year as well. See who makes that third roster spot. And then, you got to feel good about your situation there. Plus, I think Anthony McFarland kind of showed that he has developed nicely in that one game against Indy. That maybe you do have 3 guys on the roster next season already that you feel much better about the running back situation right now than you did coming into this season.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You at the very least, you have 2 top line guys that you would.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd feel like if Najee was hurt, if Najee broke his leg tomorrow, like I would feel so comfortable putting Jalen Warren in at first running back and have him taking most of the snaps.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, the Steelers literally won a football game on the ground with Benny Snell Jr. and Anthony McFarland, which, shows that at bare minimum, their offensive line is going to do enough to give somebody a chance. And then Jalen Warren is, like you said, like he gives you starter quality reps for a backup, and you have to appreciate that. I do. I think that the Steelers have some really good building blocks that we did not see coming that are going to pay dividends this offseason and make this offseason a lot easier for the Pittsburgh Steelers.